All right, thank you guys for joining us today. I think Bradley's gonna just start off with a few important reminders, and then we can just open it up for questions. Thanks.
Yeah, well, and thanks. I'm so glad we can put this together to try and help get information out to everybody at the same time. The big news is ballots mail tomorrow. So on October 9th, ballots will go out to every registered and active voter in Missoula County, and they should start receiving those ballots starting on about the 10th and trickling in kind of depending on how your normal mail service comes through. If you haven't got your ballot by Wednesday the 14th, we want you to go online. We want to make sure that you're checking www.myvoterpagemt.com, where you can confirm that where that ballot was sent to and help make sure that everything is updated in the voter database. If there's a confusion or a question from there, feel free to give our office a call. We are really excited about this because earlier in the year, the Center for Disease Control stated that the safest way for a voter to vote was voting by mail. We want to make sure that voters receive this mail ballot that gets mailed out on the 9th and then get the opportunity to vote that. Postage is paid on every ballot that's coming through from Missoula County. So once you get that in the mail, you can make a decision. You should have received your voter information pamphlets just a day or two ago. And you can vote that through, sign your envelope, and then drop it in any mailbox. And then you can track it at that myvoterpagemt.com. So you can make sure that your ballot is going to be counted. We're really encouraging people to utilize these mail services instead of coming in person. It's going to be the safest way for everybody to access services. We want to make sure that we keep all of our voters safe and healthy, as well as our election staff. We've got a great team in here, but we want to make sure that if we had a case of COVID-19, it could drastically slow services on election day. So the best way that you can help and make sure your vote gets counted is vote your mail ballot, use that postage paid return envelope, make sure it's signed, and check online at myvoterpagemt.com. Now, I've got a couple of other fun, exciting areas just to update you on that's election related, not so specific about the mail date tomorrow, but we did receive a very large grant from the Center for Tech and Civic Life. Missoula County was approved for just over $318,000. We're going to utilize these funds to help make sure that the message is clear for voters, that they understand how to vote, they know when their ballots are mailing, and really helping amplify some of the messaging we've already been doing with everybody here on the call. And then also using this to help us for processing ballots. We are sending out 77,740 ballots. That's how many are going out in the mail tomorrow. We're really hoping that we can crest over 80% voter turnout. So that would mean over 60,000 ballots coming back in. Because this is a 2-page ballot, that means that we need to sort and process over 120,000 pieces of paper. That's where we're going to be using a lot of this, is helping make sure that we have the best materials that we can have to sort, process, and make sure that all of these ballots are counted and results come out in a timely fashion. In addition to that, we added in funding for additional staff so that we can process those ballots through computers, desks for staff to be at, phones for them to call voters, for a lot of other areas that are going to help us be even more successful in this upcoming November election. One of the other big areas that it covered was a survey. We want to really implement data-driven decisions from our office. So we're going to be conducting a scientifically conducted survey through Big Sky polls. This is important to me because this means that we get a good sample size, a standard deviation. We can help make sure that we are reaching out to voters about their experiences, how Election Day went for them, how they got information from the elections office, and their confidence in the process. And we can use this over the course of the next few years to provide better services out to voters and meet them where they're at by asking them what they want and helping meet those decisions. And then in addition to that, today at the Board of County Commissioners meeting, we were able to approve additional fundings from that grant to cover overnight security at our building. We wanted to make sure that we had a 24-hour staff presence between our normal staff and an overnight security guard, just to help make sure that if we had a fire, a flood, or a break-in, that we could be really well secured at our building and that the election integrity would not be damaged. In addition to that, we've been serving voters in person since October 2nd. We really want to make sure that voters whom are coming in person are receiving these services because they were unable to vote that mail ballot. If it's at all possible for a voter to vote that mail ballot, that's going to be the best way to keep everybody safe and healthy. And then coming up on October 13th, we'll have our first satellite office event. From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., we'll have staff at the Frenchtown Fire Station help serve voters out in that region and be able to provide any service which they would normally get at the election center out at that Frenchtown Fire Station, so they can register to vote. They can cast their vote by mail ballot that they just received. They can get a replacement ballot, or they could just drop those off. However that voter would like to be provided services, we'll be out there to try and help make sure that we're reaching every voter in Missoula County. That's pretty much my update for this week. The only other thing to be aware of is that Missoula County offices will be closed on Monday the 12th for Indigenous Peoples Day. In addition to that, I'd love to open this up for some questions from anybody.
Bradley, do you have any? Oh, go ahead.
Go for it. All you.
I was going to say, is there any count on how many people have already voted in person?
Thank you. Yeah, sorry. So I did this big number run right before this. So these numbers are accurate as of 1 p.m. We issued out 77,740 ballots. We have received back in 634. Now, over 300 of those are from our overseas voters. We have a program called UACAVA, Uniformed Overseas Civilian American Voting Act. And if you are in the military or a civilian overseas, we send ballots earlier to those voters to ensure time to get that ballot sent to them and returned back. We also send out email ballots for those voters who request it. Over 300 are from our UACAVA voters that were sent out on the 18th of last month. But we have served over 300 people here who voted in person at the election center.
And there was going to be some info about more drop boxes placed in like Sealy and Frenchtown and East Missoula. Is there any update on locations for those?
Yes, so all of our locations are up and have been posted on the Missoula Votes website, but on election day only, we're going to have drop locations at the Missoula Early Learning Center, Frenchtown Fire Station, Spring Meadows Fire Station, Lolo Elementary, McCormick Park, as well as the Clinton School Annex Building, Potomac Greeno Community Center, Sealy Lake Elementary. We'll have a drive-through at the fairgrounds, as well as drive-throughs at the Adams Center and Clearwater Credit Union on Reserve Street. So those will be open on election day only from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Any voter can drop off a ballot at any of those locations and it can be accepted. But it's important to remember that the only place where you can get a ballot before election day and on election day is the election center at 140 North Russell. It's the big green building back on the corner of Wyoming and Prince. And it's the one that says election center, voter entrance, and voter exit on that building. Now, all of this is also included on the back side of the instructions that we're mailing out with the ballots to voters. It includes our drop-off locations, any drive-through drop-off we currently have scheduled before election day. It talks a bit about the fact that polling places are closed, but you can vote in person here if you would like to vote in that opportunity. And it also lists those satellite dates and times. If you go to MissoulaVotes.com, we've got a great election toolkit. And in there, you'll see a little media resource packet with all of our different handouts that we have been using internally and externally. And in there is a set of those instructions so that you can all reference that.
Bradley, has Missoula County ever conducted an only mail-in general election in a presidential election year?
No, our first federal election that we've run all mail has been the primary election. The Montana code does not allow for federal elections to be run by mail. Due to the emergency declaration from the governor, we were able to do that for both the primary, and we're going to run this for the general election. In the primary, we were incredibly successful. We had 12 percentage point higher than the last federal primary election for a presidential race. And we're hoping to do the same for this November. We want to help serve voters through the mail. We want to have limited wait times on election day because people have accessed our services beforehand. And we want record-setting turnout like we had in the primary election. We've done a lot of work internally to help prepare for this, between meeting with the post office, making sure that they're aware of our mailing dates and our plans, making sure that they're comfortable and confident in their capacities to deliver ballots to and from, working to make sure that we have extra staff here to scan in, record those ballots, check signatures, and sort those 120,000 pieces of paper we're hoping to get.
I don't know if other people are trying to ask questions, but what was the percentage turnout in the primary election?
Oh gosh, you're catching me on the spot. And I know it was 12 percentage points higher. Let me see if I can pull it really quickly from our website here. So the turnout for the primary election this year is loading, and it was forgive me, I'll have to run that one for you here to get that number.
No worries.
I'll just want to pull those out of our Canvas report here. .46% compared to 42%. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Primary turnout for the 2016 was 42%, and for the primary in 2020, it was 54.46%.
All right.
Hey, I'm gonna hop in here if I can. This is Megan with KPAX. Bradley, so perhaps more so than other elections, how important is it this year for folks to have a plan of how they're going to vote, and how will that in turn impact your team and benefit your team, for folks kind of having an idea of what they're going to do before election day?
Absolutely. The safest way for voters to vote in this election is going to be to vote that mail ballot that they're being sent tomorrow. We want to make sure that voters have a clear understanding of the issues on that ballot and that they get that opportunity to vote that ballot. Making sure that they have a clear plan on how to get that ballot into us. You know, we met with the USPS here in Missoula County, and we feel really confident in their ability to help deliver ballots both to voters and back from voters. And that can be a really good gauge of how long mail is going to take individually for each voter. We want to make sure they get a chance to vote that ballot, sign that envelope, and mail it back in with enough time for it to be received by us. And if they voted in the first week that they have it, they can track online. And if there's a concern that it hasn't been received, then that's a great opportunity to come in and make sure that that vote gets counted by coming in person. Making sure that there's a clear plan for each voter, utilizing one of our drop locations or any of our services before Election Day will help make sure that they get the best experience in the safest and healthiest way.
Okay, perfect. And for folks that have already voted, how many people have you seen come in person, and how has that been going with all the COVID precautions and whatnot?
We've seen over 300 people come in person to the election center and cast their ballot. It's been just under 400 because some have picked it up and taken it with them. We are running a very similar operation to what we ran in the primary election, but we did increase a little bit on our security protocols for COVID-19. So we've had a little bit of a line queue. When we get about 10 voters in there, it takes time for voters to be able to go through a 2-page ballot and vote every race and cast that ballot. We've been able to serve them through and added in a couple of extra features like additional masks for anybody who may not have one, plexiglass barriers between our election aides and our people coming to get services. And then we're also following very stringent cleaning protocols, trying to make sure that we wipe down every station and every chair between each voter with single-use pens in similar areas. So it's been working really well for us. Most voters have come in and there's no wait time at all. When we get about 12 people at the same time, 2 or 3 of those people will be queuing for about 10 minutes. This is the big reason that we're encouraging people to come before Election Day. To issue these ballots take time, to vote these ballots take time, and due to the social distancing requirements in the governor's directive, we need to make sure that we are spacing everybody out and cleaning these stations between voters for everyone's health and safety. And because it takes a little bit of time for all of that, we're going to have limited services for the number of stations we can have, and the amount of time is a little bit longer for each voter. So if at all possible, check online at myvoterpagemt.com and make sure that you get your ballot cast before Election Day.
Okay, perfect. That's all I needed.
Great.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mike Powers here from KPAX. Just wondering a couple of things. Number one, visually tomorrow with all those ballots going out, will there be something available that we could shoot?
So we've been checking in on this a little bit. Our ballots go from a mailing house to our USPS. USPS does not permit video footage in private areas, anything that's not open to the public. And because they're delivered through that back fence, we can't get that shot at the post office. I've been working closely with Town Mailer. Shoot me an email directly and I'll see if I can get you scheduled for when they're loaded into the truck from Town Mailer to go out. I have had a couple of requests. That's always everybody's favorite B-roll footage. Okay,
thank you. And the other thing, any guess on how late you're going to be counting ballots on election night? I know that's a crapshoot a little bit. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a very clear plan in place to make sure that we are accurate on all of our reports. With the changes in law, similar to how we operated in the primary election, we'll start counting Monday at 8 a.m. At 8 p.m., we'll pause that process, seal every ballot, and then we'll begin again on Election Day at 7 a.m. If there are remaining ballots to be counted at midnight, we will pause that process and seal again. We'll then come back at 8 a.m. the following day to complete that count. We want to make sure that our results are as accurate as possible. So in order to do that, we're going to make sure that everybody is fresh and every ballot has been counted and recorded correctly. So at midnight, that'll be our last update. If we're not fully completed at that point in time, we'll then begin again at 8 a.m. the next day, and we'll run until completion at that point. We have upped and increased our number of equipment. So we have 5 high-speed tabulators, which is the largest in the state of Montana. We also have additional staff, split shifts, and additional processing equipment that we ordered with this new grant to help it be as successful as possible. But we need to make sure that our results are accurate.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Bradley, what's your email?
It's bseaman@missoulacounty.us, and that's SEAMAN.
MissoulaCounty.mt.us?
MissoulaCounty.us.
Okay.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for joining us. And these are going to be held weekly on Thursdays, 1 p.m. You can use that same Teams link to join, and we hope you'll join us going forward. There's a lot of information to get out to people. So thanks for doing that for us.
Thank you.
Thank you all.